I am nervous. Hello, hello. You went to the hospital? I did. I'll explain. My lung collapsed! Woo! My left one. As you can see, I'm still alive. I can talk. I can breathe, which is cool. Hate when that happens, I know. Streamer, which lung do you like better? At the moment, my right one. How much did the left one collapse? So, God, when did I go in? Friday last week? It had collapsed around 1 centimeter. Then I had to go in again on... Today's Thursday. I went again on Tuesday because my symptoms got worse. And it had collapsed a bit more, and it was a 2 centimeter collapse as opposed to a 1 centimeter collapse. 2 centimeters from the side of your body. It's... Draw a pic, please. Where did I put my notebook? Let's start at the beginning. Did you feel pressure, harder breathing? How'd the symptoms start? Does lung correct itself over time? It's supposed to. Mine isn't at the moment. It's getting worse, but hopefully I have to get another x-ray tomorrow. And if it isn't naturally improving, I feel like it is, because I feel like I was in quite a lot of pain yesterday, but after sleeping I feel pretty good, although it does get more painful when I walk around. But yeah, if it doesn't naturally heal itself, which it's supposed to do most of the time, by tomorrow, then they put a chest drain in me, and I don't think that will happen. I really, 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 really fucking hope it won't happen. What the fuck is that? Basically, they cut... The worst thing is you're awake when it happens. They can't put you to sleep. They cut a hole, a very small hole at that, but they cut a hole in the side of you, like around your armpit, like here. And they put a tube through the chest. They put a tube into here that then goes into... I don't know how they get it, because it has to... Or I guess they do it from this side, because this is my left. They'd put it through here, and then the tube collects the air and the fluid. Apparently I've got like... I think they said it was blood. A little bit of blood and fluid collecting at the bottom of my lung as well. But again, that should... like fix itself, but they'd like slurp that up too, and then once that's all done, then they take it out and you should be fine. Apparently it is completely unrelated to the clots, which is insane to me, because originally I went into hospital because I thought... So the night before I was having quite like intense chest pain. Even when I had clots, I never really got chest pain that made me like double over. It was more just like I felt tight in my chest, and I was like not being able to breathe properly. And then when something like that was happening, I was like, I might be having a heart attack or something. So then the next day I went to the hospital assuming it was like a clot thing. And then, I mean, all the nurses that were with me also assumed it was a clot thing, considering my history. And then they were like, okay, I had to do a CT scan. So for some reason your lung has collapsed spontaneously. It's a spontaneous pneumothorax is what the technical term is. And I was just like, what? What crazy things are you doing with your chest? Nothing! And that's the thing again. I shouldn't like exclaim too much to not make myself out of breath, but usually spontaneous pneumothoraxes or pneumothoraces, whatever, occur when you experience pretty severe chest trauma. Like they asked me, they were like, have you been in a car crash recently? I think they asked me if I'd been scuba diving recently. I was like, no, I don't do fucking scuba diving. Like I sit on my chair all day. Apparently they mostly see it in car crash victims, the lung collapse. So again, I was like, what the fuck? No drinking and smoking karaoke stream for a decade at least. That was another thing that was frustrating me. One of the nurses was like, it's so weird, I've only ever seen pneumothoraxes in like young people who vape. And I'm like, dude, I'd give it to them. Why do I have this shit? Punish a vapor. I didn't do anything. My aunt, who is, she works as a nurse in the ED, did suggest it could be a tissue disorder. No way it's random, or else you must be the most unluckiest ever. My mum's kind of going a bit more vaccine brain. She's like, it's the fucking vaccine. I swear it's a vaccine. I don't think it was the vaccine. Does it still hurt when you're doing general movements? Right now, I'm in no pain, but I do notice, like I went out briefly this morning, it does hurt when I walk. I don't know why that is, because they said that resting doesn't make a difference, whether you're resting or doing stuff really, but it does kind of hurt to walk. And it goes into my back as well. It feels like, you guys know when you run too fast and you get a stitch? I think that literally is just because you don't get enough oxygen in your lungs. It feels like just a mega stitch. And I sometimes feel like it's burning. I feel I'm leaning towards it being some kind of rarer tissue disorder, which would explain why the doctors don't think it's on the surface connected to the clot thing. I looked it up, and for women, the chance of getting a spontaneous pneumothorax is 1 in 100,000. So like 0.001%. There's more chance to be the vaccine than the rare tissue thing, isn't it? From the information that I know, Pfizer has there are vaccines, COVID vaccines where they did observe stuff like clots and breathing issues and all that kind of stuff. Like that stuff is recorded. For example, Johnson & Johnson was one that I think was confirmed to have some issues of blood clotting. But Pfizer, I don't think there is any evidence to suggest it. Are we an anti-vax community now? No, these are the lung sacs. My knowledge of human anatomy and biology is awful. So I am going off of how the nurses and doctors tried to explain it to me. Sacs. And then inside this, you have your lungs that stick to the side of the sacs. So let's say that's the right lung. It's on the wall. But then my left one, is like here. It's become unstuck to the side. That's what it means by collapsed. Sorry, it's weird doing this because it's mirrored in the OBS. Left one hangs lower, me too, okay. I thought your lung deflated. I mean, it does deflate. Fuck, that hurt. But yeah, when it starts to collapse like this, it like shrivels up, or it can begin to like shrivel up and just decrease more and more until you can't, like, you can barely use it. Also, there's like a tear. I think a tear at the bottom, maybe? I don't know, they said there's blood like pooling here as well, which I think is because there's a tear here. It's the air pressure that keeps the lung collapsed. How's it supposed to exit naturally? I honestly don't know. Like, I found it weird how it's supposed to fix itself, and I can't do anything aside from like the pretty invasive treatments they can do if it's not healing by itself. You just have to like hope and pray. I'm like, how does the body do that? Like, they were giving me oxygen overnight, and I was wondering if it's supposed to make it inflate more so then it goes back to sticking on the side. I've heard skinny tall people are more susceptible to lungs collapsing. That is also what they told me, but I am not. I am skinny, but unfortunately I am not tall at all. I thought I'd only been in the hospital once, but yeah, it got worse, so then I had to go back in again overnight. And I barely slept. It was because people are so fucking loud, Jesus Christ. Are dying people really that loud? Okay, I don't mean to be dramatic, or not dramatic, I don't mean to be rude, because I understand that I was in a hospital, in the emergency department where people do die. But the people around me were being dramatic, I swear to God. Especially the older people. Like, please, shut up, please. I was so comfortable before, and they were fine by the way, like I knew they weren't actually dying. But of course, all these extremely loud people came in. Fuck your heart attack, I need my beauty sleep. Dude, my chest was hurting too. Will Beretta die in your roast now? Okay, listen. Okay, this one guy had no excuse. It was this old Greek guy. I only know he was Greek because the nurse said he was Greek. And he was, like, shouting on the phone. I think it was to his son, because his son ended up coming in, like, later in the morning. Just shouting in Greek so loudly. And I was like, dude, it was like 3 a.m. or something. Like, please. And then, again, I have no idea what he was saying because he was not speaking English. You could have just said he was Greek and we would have understood. Are Greek people typically loud? It was also really weird because he spoke like a little bit of English, but his English wasn't that great. And he told one of the nurses that he was ashamed that he was there and that his body had behaved well for most of his life. And I was like, dude, what do you mean? It's such a sad attitude. It's sad. I was like, dude, you're like an old guy, like, it makes sense. That's how Greek people are. Oh, I haven't met many Greek people. But anyway, he stopped shouting because they came over and, like, put him to sleep. No, they didn't. They just gave him a, no, not lethal injection. Or, like anesthesia. No, not euthanasia, no. Oh my god! Dude, there were like 4 or 5 people that came in that I was listening to so intently. There was one old, I couldn't tell if it was a woman or a man. I never saw them, but they literally... Wait, what does Jabba the Hutt sound like? Dude, okay, yes. This person sounded like fucking Jabba the Hutt, and they literally sounded like a goblin. I never saw them, I kind of wish I did. I was like, what the fuck? And they were speaking like... Where'd they take you, dude? I was in the short stay unit, in the emergency department, and then they like take people in and out when they need to. Thinks Greek men sound like goblins. This was another person. I didn't see them because my curtains were like done up mostly. Are you sure you don't have psychosis and hearing things? No, it was real. They must have been like a gnarly smoker. I was like, how do you sound like that? And there was another woman who, again at like 4 a.m. started moaning. And I understand if you're in like severe pain, but she was just like, yeah, it was like pain moans. It wasn't like sexual moaning, but she was like, and then I heard one of the nurses come over and say like, what's going on? Why are you making all these noises? And she was just like, oh, I don't feel very well. And just stopped moaning. And she was like, oh, okay, do you want some, like, we can give you some, like, Panadol, some painkillers? And she was like, no, I just don't feel very well. And then she was like, well, okay, just like, tap the button if you need us again. And she was like, okay, and then she just stopped moaning from there on. I was like, what the fuck was that for? You don't need to moan for them. They give you like a remote where if you need a nurse, you just press the button. You don't need to moan like a weirdo. You sure this wasn't a mental hospital? No, you just get weird people coming in. My dad did say to me, you're not the healthiest person on the planet. And I was like, okay, yes, but I being serious, I genuinely don't think my habits are that unhealthy to warrant a fucking collapsed lung. And that's why I said I wanted to double my pneumothorax and give it to Asmongold, because I'm like, how the fuck hasn't Asmongold had to deal with shit like this? He's way worse than I am. Or XQC! What the fuck?